All right, welcome back. It's Dr. Barton here again. I just wrapped up talking about some of the more broad, again, very kind of low level history of Apple computers and some of the things that are relevant for them. Again, we'll dive into more detail in class. So, if you're enrolled in this class, don't forget to take your notes, ask questions as we go along. This is just a broad level overview, kind of a study guide for later. The assignment I have here is basically having students to be able to correctly identify the various parts on the physical units we have in the classroom. So I'm not going to dive into that, but if you want to check out Apple's website, you can see the various Macs they have and what the hardware specifications are on those. Um, I'm going to focus though on software going forward. So this is more of how you would interact with the computer as well. I think most people nowadays have interacted with technology like this before, so I'm not going to go and be like, okay, then this is the mouse and you move and click and hit the keyboard. If you do have questions about that, let me know. But we're just going to kind of dive into more of the software side of things. So uh, most of the time you're interacting with it through the applications itself. You're again not usually going in and telling the operating system to do stuff, but you have a program that's loaded up, and that program, if it needs to, it'll talk to the operating system, and you're talking with it through that way. This is how like a DAW, a digital audio workstation, works. You can install that and other programs on your computer and run it. If it's compatible with Windows, you could run the same program on Windows or Linux or whatever you want. Again, that depends on the program that you're using. On the screen, there is a dock that, and you can see mine down here. That's part of the reason I'm doing this in a little windowed mode. I also got a labeled image right there, but a dock, and this is where you can see your open applications as well as whatever you want. You'll have the Finder, which is like a file browser, so you can go in and find all your stuff. So mine defaults to the desktop, so you can see the same things here and there. But this is your documents, your downloads, music, drives, all that kind of stuff. It's just a little file browser. Everything else in here, kind of up until this line, is whatever you really want to be. You can pick and choose what programs you have on here. So I've got mine set up so that way most of this, everything up until settings, is the same no matter what. And if I open the program, it just opens. You can tell that program is open because there's a little white dot underneath it. If I have a program open that doesn't normally live on the dock, it just kind of lives over here on the right side. And then I have this line that kind of breaks things up, and I've edited mine so that way I've got my downloads right here. So whenever I download something, it just pops up right here, easy to find. I can click and look and stuff that way, as well as other things that I have minimized out of the way. Lives right there next to the trash bin. Uh, you can also have like recently opened applications live here as well. Um, and that basically live in between this line and another line. I don't like that myself because you can get duplicates and stuff, and it just clutters up the screen, and I don't like it. But again, you can customize it to be kind of how you want, but and where you want. You can move it to different sides of the screen as well. But it contains your apps. It's made to be ways to find stuff nice and easy. It's kind of like the taskbar in Windows in that way. You can get to your other applications. Like you don't have to have everything installed on your computer down here. You could. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can get to all of your installed applications in a few different ways. I think the most straightforward, if you go to your Finder and click on Applications, well, guess what? Here's all your applications. So um, you can find those all right there. It's nice and straightforward. There's other stuff you could pull up. Different versions have different shortcuts of the launch pad, but the launch pad lets you kind of find all your different apps a little bit more quickly, um, just with a quick little shortcut. And that changes based on the operating system version. And I have some macro shortcuts on my keyboard to pull stuff up easier as well. So I'm not going to deep dive into that. What you can do though is just look up in your just say my version of Mac OS Launchpad how to open stuff like that on Google. It'll tell you right there. It's straightforward. Okay. So a few things. Some software comes with Mac OS, so when you get your computer and you open it up, it's ready to go. It's all updated. You'll have several things included, and these are just general things. Text editing software, productivity, entertainment. Little bit of everything. And they're just enough to get you started on a lot of stuff without having to need to go install a whole bunch of things. So it's very plug and play in that regard. So you can get started using it. Again, it comes with like GarageBand for music stuff just automatically, which it is very nice, very handy. If you don't want them though, like maybe they're just taking up some space, you can uninstall them. If there's anything that would cause a problem for it to be uninstalled, it won't let you. But you can uninstall most of those programs, and you can install additional ones either just from third-party places and stores or from the dedicated app store as well. I'm not going to pull it up, but you can find lists from Apple of all of those included applications. If that's something relevant for you, it's a handy little thing to have, but I don't refer to it on a regular basis or anything. All right, so the middle of the screen, most of the screen, that's just like a traditional desktop. You get your folders and files and stuff that you want to have up here, shortcuts to things. Compared to Windows, that puts stuff over here on the left, Mac stuff tends to live on the right. You can change that, but that's just how it goes in default. This next section I've got up here, this toolbar at the top. That's everything on this top side of the screen, kind of where my mouse is moving. So again, like I mentioned, apps with a dot underneath them in the dock, those are your applications that are running. You'll see this little tiny white dot under the icon. All right, if that dot is there, it is running, even if the window itself is not visible on the screen. You can only have one current application that's like on top, and that's what you're interacting with. Like I have OBS running in the background recording all of this, but I'm currently interacting with PowerPoint. You can tell what app you have on the top level. I call it the top application and the one you're using, just by looking right up here next to the Apple icon, this Apple menu. You'll see the name of the current application. And if you click on it, you'll get some stuff. But the contents of this menu will change depending on what app you have open. I'm trying to minimize hopping between different ones because that always makes my recording interesting. Sometimes I'd rather not accidentally mess it up. But if I click on, let's see right real quick, if I were to actually go into OBS or preview maybe. Yeah, click on preview, it wants to open things, but you see this has now changed to say preview, and the contents of this side of the bar have now changed. So depending on what you have as your active application, so I clicked back into PowerPoint, changed to PowerPoint, this all changed. The contents of this will change based off of what you're checking out. So that's handy because you don't have to go through a bunch of irrelevant stuff. It's always for that specific application. It's going to know the Apple menu is always going to be the same. This is stuff that's not relevant to a specific application, but just the computer as a whole. So you can get your settings, App Store, force quit. You can find stuff about the Mac, like how much memory you've got, what your operating system, that kind of stuff. Going over here, you get like your status menus, stuff like that. Things running in the background. I know in Windows, it's usually in like a little tray down here at the bottom, that kind of stuff. So right now I've got, OBS is running. It's still technically plugged in, but my webcam is dead. So, it's trying to work. That's just saying that something is looking at your screen and your camera and all that. I've got some drivers running in the background, so like email, some audio stuff, things for my mouse, cleaners, all that is living up here, as well as some different indicators. So like battery power, because this is a MacBook Pro, not an iMac. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, notifications, things like that. If you click on this, you can edit widgets if you want to have stuff like that. It's handy. I don't use it a ton on this device, but it's handy. I've got some. This is out of date. I'll fix that. That's just the wrong date. It's going to bother me now that I've noticed it. But again, it's a lot of handy information, some ways to get to stuff kind of easily, but then it's, pretty minor. Like I don't need to always be accessing this for some of my plugins, but I can pull it up and just have it go. It just kind of lives in the background up there. All right, I mentioned the Apple menu already, but again, this is just stuff that is specific to your device. I've got just a screenshot of mine, the one I had open up there. So again, you can force quit things, see stuff, other, sleep, restart, log out, all that kind of thing. It just kind of lives there. All right. If you want to change or close apps, there's something that's important to know. So you can swap through your open apps in different ways. Again, you can only have one that's like the top level, the one you're currently using. To swap between them, you can, again, select the app icon on the bottom on your dock, and it'll toggle over to that. You can also use Command Tab on the keyboard. So if you hold down the Command button and just tap the Tab button, let's see if it'll pop up on the menu. Every time I hit Tab, and I'm making it as loud as I can to see if it pops up, it's highlighting a different application. When I let go of the Command button, that one will become the top app. So if I hop back over to Preview again, I let go of the Command button, we're now back in Preview. If I hold Command and hit Tab again, and I'm just cycling through this to make a point, but we go to PowerPoint, I let go, PowerPoint's now on top. So again, that's how you can cycle through your different open applications. It's pretty straightforward. The keyboard shortcut is nice to have. I do want to point out, though, if I hop back over here, that this doesn't actually have one. Let's just make a new little window right here. So every window on a Mac has these three dots on the top left side. The red, if you hover over them, the icons appear. But the red one closes the window. The yellow one minimizes it. The green one maximizes it. And if you hold your mouse over the green one, you can choose where to tile and arrange stuff in full screen settings, so you could have it live on a certain part of the screen. It's pretty handy. But again, if I wanted to minimize it, I click that yellow dot and that's what these are down here, just minimized windows. I click on it again, it comes back. If I click on the X, though, it's going to close the window. It does not, however, close the program. I have stuff open in the background. Let's see if I can just open up a PDF real quick. Here's a PDF. It's opening in a different program. That's okay. This is for a different class I'm teaching. It opened up in the Adobe PDF viewer. Click, drag, move around. That's cool. I click close it out. You'll notice that Adobe Acrobat is still open. Some programs will close by default, but most of them don't on Mac. In order to completely close and quit the program, that's what they call it on Mac, is quitting the program. You need to tell the program to quit. It's still going to be running in the background, taking up CPU resources and slowing things down if it's just open and not doing anything. There's a few different ways that you can do that. You can hold down Control and click, or right click if you have a mouse, and click quit from the menu that pops up. That's totally fine. You can, in the app menu, if you go in and click on the name, click quit. It's right there. And then it'll also show you the shortcut, which is the one I usually end up using, which is the Command button and Q for quit. So if I'm in Acrobat and I hit Command Q, it goes away, disappears from the dock. It's gone. It's closed. There you are. You do want to make sure that you're indeed in the app you want to close. So if you want to close something out, you can toggle over to your apps. Once you've selected it, you can then hit Command Q to quit that one. Otherwise, you may run into some issues. There's also a force quit option, which is a little bit different. If you go to force quit, it's kind of like the task manager in Windows, but with a little less information. It just shows you everything that you have open. And if you hit force quit, it forcibly quits the program. Normally there's a little bit of a process that makes sure all the data's good and closed out and the caches are cleared. But a force quit, it just ends it. This is if your program is kind of glitching out and having a process just not responding, you come into force quit, make it quit. And there you go. It's pretty good. All right, we're getting there. 4 more slides on this one. So there is also a terminal app. I mentioned that a lot of this stuff is a little bit abstracted from talking like directly to the OS and the ones and zeros and everything there. The terminal is a application that lets you do that. It's text based. So again, I've actually got a screenshot of I just opened up my terminal window. There it is. As well. So this is where you can start typing stuff and have it do things. This is where you can also like break your computer if you're not careful. So I don't recommend that students check this out, but sometimes you may need to run into here. This could be used for like installing and uninstalling stuff, forcing drives to mount and moving files, things like that. Like it has a lot of uses depending on what you're doing. Most people don't need to go into here, and I would not recommend it unless you absolutely need to, because again, you can really mess up your computer. And if anyone like were to give you like if you basically use like a malicious code or anything in here, it would be a nightmare to fix even if you could. So I always don't just run code in the terminal that anyone online has told you to run. uh, it could be problematic. That's kind of my general warning. But um, again, this does a whole lot of stuff. We're not going to dive into it. I just want students to know that it's there and broadly speaking what it does. All right, spotlight search. Um, you may have noticed what I did just now to get that program open, but I'm going to explain it. And a spotlight search is a way to easily and quickly just find things on your computer. If you hit Command and Spacebar, it opens up this spotlight search. And depending on your version, may look a little bit different. This is actually a newer version that I'm more used to using, but I can kind of find between some specific uh, categories, which is handy. But just start typing some stuff and it'll look through your documents. Maybe I just PowerPoint. We'll pretend I spelled that right. Um, you get a whole bunch of stuff. So you can specify specific things like categories that you're looking for. But here we've got, okay, here's the Microsoft PowerPoint application. Here's a bunch of PowerPoint presentation files that you've got on your computer. Excuse me, that just kind of came out of nowhere. We'll see if I remember to edit that out of the video. As I was saying, you type in PowerPoint, and then you get your Microsoft PowerPoint application or specific files. Maybe I want to look for a syllabus for one of my classes. I'll just syllabus, and then here's a whole bunch of stuff, pretty much all the files that have the name syllabus in them, or it says syllabus in the files. Mac will periodically kind of index all of the stuff on your computer so you can easily find it. You can sometimes, depending on what you're searching for, set it up to like search the internet as well, which can be handy. I don't do a ton of that, but it's a nice little ways to find stuff. So usually, instead of opening up the whole launch pad, nope, that's a different thing. I was looking for some games to play earlier in my free time, but instead of opening up the launch pad and scrolling through that way, although you can search for it now, I'll just search. So maybe I want to open up. I don't know. I'm gonna pick something that's already on the dock, but why not? Arduino, and boom, there it is. I can open up the app that way. So again, it's really handy for finding stuff. Um, okay, last slide of content there, and this is getting into why do we use it for music and things. And there's a whole bunch of different reasons throughout. And some of it really comes down to personal preference. If you like this device, this ecosystem, want to keep using it, go for it. They are not the cheapest computers out there, so if budget is a concern, it can be a bit of a problem. But the kind of main reasons you'll see brought up from people who like to use it as to why are they very easily integrate with other Apple devices. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, they talk very easily. AirDrop is wonderful for sending stuff to different devices. It's again intuitive and easy to learn. Some of the shortcuts are a little annoying, but once you find out, the ones that you use the most, they kind of go nice and quickly. Um, and again, they design it to be as intuitive as it can be. Again, with that, the OS designed to work with the hardware like from the ground up. Again, it's very fast, very efficient processing. You don't have to worry about drives spinning up and taking forever and incompatibility. Usually, bugs do happen, but uh, again, it's a very good there. The build quality of the devices is also nice. It's pretty solid. I mean, they still break. Um, I'm not an expert on build quality of computers. I won't lie to you there, but I find very solid, very almost like single piece. They are not great for upgrading stuff. So like if you wanted to update the RAM in your computer, it might be a bit of a headache. You'd probably have to send it off to Apple and have them do it. Whereas opposed to like a Windows desktop, you would just pop out the old RAM and stick the new stick in there. So again, that's a bit of a trade-off, but usually they're fairly sturdily built. Another part of it too is just it's a bit of a status symbol. It's a little more on the expensive side for computers. So be like, ooh, I'm good enough at my music. I've got the expensive thing. Like it, in a similar vein, it's kind of it's vibes. Like it looks cool sitting on the shelf. All of that. So again, a bit of vibes, bit of status on there as well. And then you have multiple software options. Like you're not locked into certain things, and that's really true on all operating systems. But it does come with specifically for music, GarageBand for free. So like you get the computer, you have everything you need to get started automatically. You don't have to go out and buy additional software and hardware unless you just really want to. And there are some things I would recommend you go out and buy, but that's a whole other topic. So again, those are just some of the reasons I've run into both myself being a Mac and Windows user and talking to other people as well. So some of the more common things for that. Reasons it's not things. Things is a bad word to use as a teacher. That's the more common reasons that Macs are used creatively. Okay, so that's kind of the end of my kind of broad level intro talk slash review of stuff here. In class, we're going to be getting a lot of practice doing things in this software, so I'm not going to deep dive into, well, here's what this shortcut does and all that right here. That'll be a whole dedicated thing, but we're going to start interacting with the computers more. I'm going to talk next a little more broadly on just how computers as a whole work, but I'll be kind of grounding it in the Mac world for that. But how does data saved and stored and moved and stuff like that is very important to know as a musician, at least as a musician using Macs to create music and the like. There's a second little assignment here as well. So if you're enrolled in this class, don't forget about it. Basically, you're starting to use the software, finding specific things I'm asking for, and taking a screenshot of it. So that's kind of the assignment right there. If you have any questions, as always, shoot me a message, stop by my office hours, comment on the video, all that kind of stuff. Some way for me to see it out there, and I'd be more than happy to help. So that's all I've got. I'm going to quit rambling now, and I'll see you next time I see you. Bye.